and welcome to today's press conference following the Foreign Affairs Council and the jumbo format following the Foreign Affairs Council when the Ministers of Defense joined the Ministers of Foreign Affairs. The HRVP will brief you on the outcome of today's meeting, and then he will take a few questions, not too many, as he is unfortunately has to go to the Schuman Forum right after. High Representative, you have the floor.
Thank you, Nabila. Well, it has been a very long but productive day. We started with the Foreign Affairs Council and after a joint meeting with the defense ministers, what we call a jumbo. During the morning on the Foreign Affairs Council, once again, we discussed with Foreign Minister Kuleba via BTC. He brief about the situation on the ground, the military situation on the ground, how the war continues, and he passed again a clear message to us. Look, we need ammunition. We need ammunition and we need it fast. The answer of the Council was clear. Ukraine can continue counting on the European Union. And on this regard, I am happy to announce that the defense and foreign ministers together agreed on the proposal to urgently provide artillery ammunition from stocks existing or from jointly procuring, addressing to the industry and increasing the industrial capacity. This proposal was the proposal that they put forward together with Commissioner Breton. And I have to tell you that this decision has been taken very, very quickly. Everything started on the last European Union Council with the proposal coming from Estonia. Then we discussed that at the Defense Ministers' Council informal in Sweden. And in 2 or 3 weeks, the agreement has been reached. What do we have agreed? 3 tracks. First track, 1 billion euros to support from the European Peace Facility for the reimbursement to the member states who immediately deliver ammunition. 155 millimeters and missiles if it is requested by Ukraine. This coming from national stocks or from pending orders, stocks on the way, but already ordered. Second track, another 1 billion euros to reimburse joint procurement, once again, of 155 millimeters ammunition and also missiles, if it is requested by Ukraine, from the European industry and from Norway. This will be done through a project led by the European Defence Agency or by led nations framework. The objective is to deliver and to deliver fast. And the third track is to increase the capacity of the European industry. But about the second track, I want to be more concrete. For now, 17 member states and Norway have signed the project arrangement of the European Defence Agency, and I know that more will join soon. For practical procedures, not everybody has been able to sign today, but I think that we will be above 20 member states participating in this project. So the project is well on track, and contracts should be passed with the industry by the end of May. About the third track, to increase the capacity of the European defence industry, to increase the demand and replenish the stock of our armies, to produce more, to reduce production time, and here the Commission will need to play its role. Because we are in a situation which is not unhappily the one in which we have been for the last 60 years, where we Europeans, we have been building peace through economic integration and common prosperity. Now, like it or not, and certainly we don't like, we have to face a war in our borders and support a country at war. And in the last 20 years, since the end of the Cold War, Europeans, we have been decreasing our military capacity. That's a fact. We have decreased our military expenditure by 2, and according with the figures that I have, we have been decreasing our production of ammunition by 4. And now suddenly we need to increase it because the environment has changed dramatically. Today the Council has confirmed its agreement on this 3-track approach. I have to stress how important this decision is. By its ambition, we will work on the very tight deadlines because the purpose is to provide 1 million ammunition in 1 year. By the scope, we combine delivery from existing stocks and joint procurement of new production. By its financial volume, we are talking about 2 billion euros of reimbursement. Remember that the reimbursement costs more or less 55%, 60% maximum of the cost. So in practical terms, we are talking about an expenditure which is double this figure. With that, we use the top-up on the European Peace Facility that was agreed. And knowing that there will be more needs, not only for Ukraine, but for other countries around the world, the Council has also agreed to consider a further increase of the overall financial capability of the EPF by 3.5 billion. I'm not saying the Council has agreed on increasing it, but on considering this further increase, which is the first step for that. I think this is an extraordinary demonstration of the European Union unity and readiness, working hard and swiftly. A clear proof of the European Union determination behind Ukraine's right of self-defense. We will be having to work on other things, on other strands, but for today it was important to have a quick decision. And I want to thank all my teams that has been working hard, very hard, not only during the weekend, but since the Defense Ministers meeting in Sweden, from the Commission, from the External Action Service, from the Member States, from the European Defence Agency. This agreement will put the European Defence Agency in orbit. They will have to deliver on concrete results, on some concrete endeavour, not just think about possibilities, but working in something that has a clear deadline, that mobilizes a lot of financial resources, that require a strong working together with the industry. This is going to be important for the European Defence Agency to reach a certain degree of maturity on the tasking that the European treaties has been given to this institution, which I have, this body, which I have the honour to chair. As chairman, not as director. There is a managing director or executive director, but all member states are part of the board of the agency. This is about the war effort, but we want also to talk about peace efforts, and we support President Zelensky's peace formula. And we will continue to conduct outreach with Ukraine and our partners in order to continue thinking that the war one day or another will finish, and then we have to build the peace. And the President Zelensky's peace formula continues having our support in order to look for a just peace, not any kind of peace. On accountability, I recall the important decision of the International Criminal Court to issue an arrest warrant against President Putin in connection with alleged crimes of deportation of Ukrainian children to Russia. And as we have said many times, holding Russian leaders to account for the atrocities they are committing in Ukraine is our collective priority. We will continue working on identifying those involved in the deportation of children with the aim of adopting further restrictive measures. Some say that the International Criminal Court is an institution which is unable to make their warrants to be implemented. And since Russia has not signed this international treaty creating the International Criminal Court, they don't have to care. Well, yes, they have to care, because with this arrest warrant, President Putin, if he travels to any of the almost 130 states that have signed this convention, should be immediately arrested. So it puts President Putin in a completely different position with respect to the international community. Then over the weekend we see Black Sea Grain Initiative extended. It has moved 24 million metric tons of grain. Russia has been exacerbating the global food crisis with the blockade of the grain, Ukrainian grain. Hope that they will respect the terms of the agreement. And let me remind that we have been contributing substantially to the efforts through the Solidarity Lane, which was the alternative way of exporting Ukrainian food. The second point in the agenda was the worrying situation in Tunisia. Tunisia is a neighbor, is a close partner, and what happens there has an immediate impact on us. Not only because it increases migration flows, because it creates more instability and insecurity in the MENA region, in the Mediterranean. So for us it is imperative to avoid the economic and social collapse and to support Tunisian people. We cannot turn a blind eye to what's happening there. Rule of law, respect to human rights are key important structural reforms on one side, and on the other side, the finalization of the program already agreed with the International Monetary Fund that has to be signed by the Tunisian president. This is indispensable. We will continue paying close attention to the situation, and I will ask 2 members of the Foreign Affairs Council to travel immediately to Tunisia in order to assess the situation and to come back with a report that will guide our future steps. But everything has to be done quickly, because the situation in Tunisia is very, very dangerous. If Tunisia collapses economically or socially, then we will be in a situation where new flows of migrants will come to Europe. We have to avoid this situation. We adopted additional listing under the Iran human rights sanction regime. This complements the previous sanctions packages adopted in October. And we are continually following closely the reports on the poisoning of students in the country and the evolution of the nuclear activities. Finally, Kosovo and Serbia, I debriefed the ministers about the agreement we reached in audit between Kosovo and Serbia. This is an important milestone in the process of normalization of relations among them, and certainly creates a new status quo in the dialogue. We are no longer looking, I hope, we will no longer be on crisis mode, but on the implementation of agreements that were accepted on the 27th of February. These agreements will enter into force when the statement I issued was not a signature for legal reasons, but both parties agreed that my statement was a commitment from their part to fulfill fully the obligations coming from this agreement and the annex for its implementation. And let me stress one thing. The provisions agreed will be incorporated as integral parts to the respective European Union path. To Serbia, through Chapter 35 of its negotiation framework, and Kosovo through its special group of normalization. These will be concrete and explicitly parts of their commitments on the European path. And we will follow closely the implementation of these agreements. Member States have expressed their support, and I am initiating the process in this regard. Last but not least, it was today 1 year from the approval of the strategic compass. The circumstances has made that this anniversary has coincided with this important decision on ammunition and funding our military support to Ukraine. So I am afraid that this will shadow the importance of what we have done with the strategic compass during the last year. I think we can be proud of the progress achieved on the 4 pillars of the compass, and we have identified new areas for further push. You can find the details on the report. Do you have a report here?
Not here, but it's...
You don't have it here. Well, okay, provide the report, because I'm not going to read a document which is quite long, but there you may find what we have been doing on the pillars of the strategic compass. And certainly the European defense has done a long way during this last year following the strategic compass proposals. I want also to thank all my teams and all the teams of the member states who have made it possible. And as you know, today we are going to start the Human Defense Forum. We will bring here to Brussels together all the most important of our partners in the field of security and defense. And this is part of our engagement to build a more comprehensive network of relationships with actors and partners around the world. We have partnerships with almost everything, on climate, on digital, on... we have to build partnerships on the field of defense, not on the military side. We are not going to build a second military alliance, but there are many dimensions of security and defense which are in our capacity to build. So I think that European defense capacity is growing, is developing, and it's an important part of my job as High Representative for foreign and security and defense policy.
The first question goes to the... Yes, you.
¿Qué tal? Voy a hacer la pregunta en castellano, señor Borrell. Yo le quiero preguntar por la reunión que tiene lugar hoy en Moscú entre el presidente chino y el presidente de Rusia, Vladimir Putin. En su opinión, ¿qué gesto debería hacer la China para demostrar ese papel de neutralidad que ha reivindicado? Y si sigue usted manteniendo la confianza en que China no está ayudando militarmente a Rusia de manera directa o indirecta, y si confía usted en el plan, si sigue confiando en el plan que presentó China para la paz. Gracias.
Qué pena, siempre me preguntan por las cosas que no hemos hecho y de las cuales no tengo suficiente información para poderle contestar con propiedad, porque he estado encerrado todo el día trabajando en lo que les he explicado y no estoy seguro de poder conocer bien lo que han decidido tan importantes personalidades como los presidentes Putin y Xi. Solo puedo decirle una cosa: no tengo ninguna evidencia de que China haya suministrado armas a Rusia. Y no tengo ninguna evidencia de que esté planificando hacerlo. No puedo adivinar lo que pasará pasado mañana, pero hoy por hoy ni yo ni nadie que pudiera tenerla me la ha comunicado. Evidencia alguna sobre que China, y si China hubiera estado suministrando armas a Ucrania, lo sabríamos, porque las armas se usan. Por lo tanto, no tengo evidencia de que esa cosa haya ocurrido y no tengo evidencia de que estén preparándose para hacerlo. Lo cual no quiere decir que no tengamos, obviamente, que estar vigilantes. El plan llamado Plan de Paz presentado por China durante la UNGA, sus puntos, francamente hace falta un esfuerzo intelectual muy grande para considerarlo un plan de paz. Es más bien una recopilación de las posiciones chinas al respecto, que son de sobra conocidas. Pero no puedo ir más lejos en mi valoración de lo que han hablado, porque no lo conozco.
Nicolas.
Monsieur le représentant, Nicolas Convéred, B2 et Sud-Ouest, je suis ici. En français, s'il vous plaît. Vous avez parlé sur le projet d'acquisition d'armement en disant qu'un tabou était brisé. Est-ce que vous pourriez expliquer en quoi un tabou est brisé? Est-ce que vous estimez que ce sera suffisant pour soutenir l'Ukraine dans son combat? Et comment vous voyez la remontée des plafonds de la facilité européenne pour la paix, puisqu'on va parler de 3,5 milliards supplémentaires? En fait, on est quasiment au rythme aujourd'hui d'1 milliard par trimestre, presque. Est-ce que ça veut dire qu'il faudra à un moment donné se repencher sur cet instrument pour remonter les fonds?
Je vous remercie beaucoup. Je comprends la question. Je ne pense pas avoir dit aujourd'hui qu'un tabou a été brisé.
Non, mais vous l'avez dit avant.
Oui, avant. Avant. Aujourd'hui, on n'a pas brisé aucun tabou. On ne brise pas des tabous tous les jours. On fait ça seulement de temps en temps. Enfin, on avait brisé les tabous de dire on ne peut pas financer des armes à un pays en guerre. Ça, on l'avait fait il y a déjà un an. Et maintenant, ce qu'on fait, c'est continuer avec les mêmes tabous brisés à subministrer des armes, mais d'une façon beaucoup plus organisée, massive et concentrée. On donne une réponse urgente à une demande urgente. On a besoin de munitions, et munitions, on n'en a pas beaucoup. Il faut les produire, il faut partager ce qu'on a, et les États membres vont partager une partie de ces stocks, et ils vont le faire dans la confiance que l'augmentation de la capacité de l'industrie européenne va leur permettre de refaire les stocks qu'ils ont, et que, heureusement pour eux, ils ne vont pas les utiliser, et que, par contre, l'Ukraine en a un besoin urgent. Et la deuxième question, est-ce que je compte sur de nouvelles ressources pour l'European Peace Facility? J'espère bien que si. Les ministres ont décidé qu'ils vont les discuter. Il y a un top-up de 3,5. Je ne peux pas vous dire qu'il y a un accord, parce qu'il n'existe pas encore, mais c'est évident qu'avec ces 2 milliards pour les munitions pour l'Ukraine, on finit les ressources financières disponibles. Donc si on peut faire plus, il en faudra plus.
Maria.
Je pense que ça sera une question à discuter sans doute dans le prochain Conseil européen.
Bonjour, merci beaucoup Maria Audrescu pour la Libre Belgique. Vous avez mandaté la Belgique et le Portugal de se rendre en Tunisie prochainement. Je voulais savoir quel était le message européen que ces pays devront porter en Tunisie. Est-ce qu'il y a eu aujourd'hui déjà un accord des 27 sur le message européen à envoyer et notamment aussi sur les leviers que l'Union européenne peut utiliser pour promouvoir la stabilité dans le pays? Merci.
La stabilité du pays a deux dimensions. Il y a la stabilité politique et la stabilité économique. La stabilité politique dépend du développement des institutions démocratiques de façon inclusive. Le président tunisien a développé un nouveau système politique pour le pays qui a reçu un appui mitigé du point de vue du nombre de Tunisiens qui sont allés voter, 11% pour les dernières élections parlementaires, moins de 30% pour la nouvelle constitution. On a besoin d'un développement inclusif et du côté économique, on a besoin de ressources qui ne peuvent venir que du Fonds monétaire international. Nous, on ne peut pas aider un pays qui n'est pas capable de signer un accord avec le Fonds monétaire international d'une façon préalable. Le gouvernement tunisien était arrivé avec un accord avec le Fonds monétaire international. Le gouvernement a discuté et s'est mis d'accord avec le Fonds monétaire international. Maintenant, cet accord, il faut que le président le signe et le mette en œuvre. Du contraire, je vois mal comment est-ce qu'on peut éviter une situation très grave pour l'économie tunisienne.
Gerakina.
Yes, Geracina Tuhina, Kosovo Television, on the dialogue, Mr. Borrell, while the European Union is expecting for the parties to fully implement the provisions of agreement, just hours after your statement, Serbian president insisted he is not obliged to fulfill those provisions that undermine Serbian national interests. So is Serbia obliged to implement everything fully, including Article 4, which clearly emphasized that Serbia will not object membership of Kosovo in international organizations?
L'accord has to be implemented according with a certain calendar. Et ce calendrier demande que chaque partie fasse sa part. Il ne faut pas commencer la maison par le toit. Il faut commencer par les choses les plus urgentes. Et il y en a quelques-unes qui sont très, très urgentes. Il est dit clairement dans l'annexe que le Kosovo s'engage au développement immédiat de l'association des municipalités serbes du nord du Kosovo. On va suivre de près de quelle façon les deux parties mettent en œuvre ces obligations, qui sont partie intégrale de son chemin vers l'Europe.
Last question, Nawab.
Thank you. Nawab Khan from the Kuwait News Agency. Sir, I have a question which was not discussed today on the agenda, but it is of vital importance for your foreign policy issue, which is the Palestine-Israeli conflict. And I would like to ask you a reaction of the Israeli Finance Minister, Smotrich, who said yesterday in the speech in Paris, and I quote him, "There is no such thing as a Palestinian nation, there is no Palestinian history, there is no Palestinian language." I would like to ask your comments on this. Thank you.
The comments of Minister Smotrich go once again in the opposite direction and certainly cannot be tolerated. and I call on the Israeli government to disavow those comments and to start working together with all parties to diffuse tensions. It's not the first time that I have to express our concern regarding the spiraling violence on the ground. And we, the European Union, we have constantly advocating for measures of de-escalation, not inflammatory. The latest meetings in Aqaba and Sharm el-Sheikh goes in the good direction. But I have to deplore this unacceptable comment by Minister Smotrich. It is wrong, it is disrespectful, it is dangerous, it is counterproductive to say these kinds of things in a situation which is already very tense. So we will continue in our long-standing commitment to the two-state solutions with an independent and sovereign state of Palestine living side by side with Israel in peace and security. And I am sorry if some don't like to listen to these kind of things. But this is the position of the European Union. It's not the personal position of the High Rep. It's the European Union position. Maybe some don't say that so clearly and so loudly, but it is. And I repeat, it's wrong, it's disrespectful, it's dangerous and counterproductive in a situation like this to say these kind of things. Could you imagine if a Palestinian leader would have said the state of Israel doesn't exist? What would have been the reaction?
Thank you very much. This closes our press conference today, and have a nice day.